Portland held Minnesota to just over 85 points per game on 45% shooting from the field. But now the Blazers face a Jazz team that scored over 94 points per game against the Sonics and shot over 46% from three-point range. Fred, we can assume that number will go down just a tad. The Blazers can play superior defense. But the concern might be with the offense for Portland, because they have a lot of mouths to feed. That could be a double-edged sword in this series.
Jason, so many ways to slice that offensive pie. On defense, Portland, no problem. Scottie Pippen leading the way. Offensively, my concerns. Why? Because the players don't get enough touches. Guys like Steve Smith, accustomed to having the ball. Brian Grant, poster player, accustomed to having the ball. Detlef Schrempf, coming off the bench, accustomed to getting the ball. Without touches, you lose your rhythm. Like the running back, you need those touches. Also, Portland, down the gutter ball games, 4 and 7 in games decided by 3 points or less. We talked about not having a go-to man. If they don't, down the gutter of the ball game, close game, advantage Utah.
Advantage Utah because we know the ball is going to Stockton and Malone at the end of the game. Russell. Stockton reads the defense and finds Malone at the top. Well, we know all about the Utah Jazz and their reputation as a great offense.
Malone to 35% shooting and outscoring the Jazz by 30 points. What's more, the Blazers have a few matchups at point guard they can exploit. As you can see, Damon Stoudemire has had considerable success against Howard Eisley, while Greg Anthony has done a great job defending John Stockton. Clearly, the Jazz will need to improve in those areas if they hope to advance past the Blazers.
Bill Musselman, who just happened to be the first coach the T-Wolves ever had. Musselman.
Series coming up next as the NBA playoffs continue on NBC. In Portland, Oregon, where it's now time for the Western Conference semifinals to begin. Game one between the Utah Jazz and the Portland Trail Blazers. Our starting lineups for this afternoon. For Utah, Karl Malone and Brian Russell at the forwards, Olin Polynice in the middle, Jeff Hornacek and John Stockton at the guards for Jerry Sloan. And for Portland, Scottie Pippen, Rasheed Wallace at the forwards, Arvydas Sabonis in the middle, Steve Smith and Damon Stoudemire at the guards. Karl Malone and the Jazz, tough 5-game series against Seattle. Those two future Hall of Famers with huge performances on Friday in the clincher. Meanwhile, Rasheed Wallace and the Blazers, 4 games to defeat Minnesota in the first round. A hard-fought series, but very impressive as Scottie Pippen led the way for Portland.
And it's a well-rested Portland team. Lots of time to prepare, having not played since last Tuesday, but you never know because some of that rest turn into rust. And I'm sure that's what Mike Dunleavy's a little bit worried about. Utah coming in clearly the underdog in terms of talent and depth.
Of course, the rust from Philadelphia yesterday as Indiana took game 1 of that series. And then earlier today in the other Eastern Conference semifinal, a thrilling finish as Miami wins game 1. So we're underway, game 1 with the West. Malone and Wallace, what fun that'll be to watch as Pippen guarded by Jeff Hornacek. Blazers certainly have the size advantage, and they used it to their advantage as Wallace misfires. They won 3 of 4 against Utah during the regular season.
And Jerry Sloan anticipating opponents coast to coast. John Stockton going right through the defense, and those are the kinds of easy baskets that Utah is going to need to complement their half-court offense. But there's a little difference here. Jeff Hornacek watching Scottie Pippen. Now, they did that in the finals a couple of years back, and to not much success, but they want to keep Hornacek off Steve Smith, who they anticipate will post up.
Sabonis draws the foul and goes down hard. Stoudemire does a good job penetrating and dishing off. For the Utah Jazz, this has been a very difficult place to play. I mean, you look in the 90s when the Jazz have played in the playoffs in Portland, winless, 0-11.
Now, that's not good, but the Portland team has changed over the course of time, but that man, Jerry Sloan, has been here throughout the 90s, as have John Stockton and Karl Malone, and a lot of Jeff Hornacek.
And not only did Portland beat them in terms of 3 out of 4 during the regular season, last year in a very physical playoff series, it was Portland that eliminated Utah in the same second round in 6 games. Now, again, Portland's a much different team, and certainly a better team by the way they played during the regular season.
safe team, and Utah relies so much on their team play, on their execution, on reversing the ball from side to side, getting a lot of baskets out of their little pet moves, their little back doors, their little slips.
Brian Russell, Jazz need a big game from him, and Pippen with the bump, and Scottie Pippen picks up the first. He's not pleased with the call. And Utah will take it out of bounds.
Well, Utah's one of the best shooting teams in the league. However, not against this Portland ball club, and it's because of their length. They're very big and bulky inside. They challenge shots. And that 10-point drop-off is very big for a team like Utah. They find ways to score, even if you take them out of their initial offense, but not against Portland.
And Pippen a big part of that. Ball knocked away from behind. Stockton turns it over, and Pippen able to get the first field goal now for the Blazers. The defense is still the key for the Portland Trailblazers. You talk all you want about their balance offensively, but defense makes them go. Hornacek off the mark. Pollina's the rebound. Olden Pollina's the jump hook. Won't go. Pollina's played very well. Maybe his best game of the year in Game 5 against Seattle, but you never know from game to game what he'll give them.
Nick Fillinger-Oaks obviously scoring 13 in that pivotal game, even getting a big three-point play. However, two shaky free throws down the stretch by Olden Pollina.
Russell knocks it down. And you talk so much about the top three with Malone, Stockton, and Hornacek, but when Brian Russell plays well and is hitting from the outside, the Jazz are a tough team to beat.
Opponents say it, the Jazz say it themselves. They need him to make outside shots. They need him also to make some stuff inside. Going to the mismatch inside, Scottie Pippen working against Jeff Hornacek.
Hornacek picking up his first personal.
There's Scottie Pippen. Modest numbers during the regular season, basically trying to blend in. But when he saw Wally Szczerbiak on him, which he expected going into that Minnesota series, his eyes lit up, took the ball to the basket early and often, opened up his outside shooting. Yeah, terrific series.
Wallace misses the dunk, thought he was fouled. Malone had to leave him to go help out. That's a tough matchup, Hornacek on Pippen. Certainly the Blazers will try and take advantage. Malone had problems with Wallace and Brian Grant in last year's playoff series. Grant coming off the bench now. Hornacek tried to force it in there, and a turnover. Stoudemire, nice move. Stockton with a hard foul from behind, and David Stoudemire to shoot a couple.
Now that's two times Utah has gotten themselves in too close to the basket. One time John Stockton, and now Hornacek turning the ball over amongst the trees. Another breakaway opportunity for Portland. You don't want to give them those easy basket opportunities. They're going to do enough damage on the offensive boards. And the crowd here at the Rose Garden reacting to that extra aggressive, hard playoff foul by John Stockton. But these two teams are very physical with one another. They'll get after it. It gets very chippy. It gets feisty.
Stoudemire saying before the game that he felt he has so much respect for Stockton, but says as Stockton has gotten older, he has been more physical, but looks forward to the challenge. Stockton, of course, him and Gary Payton, what fun that was to watch in the first round.
Oh, what a final game 5 for John Stockton. Not only did he have to guard Gary Payton. Now, Payton had a good offensive game. You expect that, but terrific play at the offensive end for Stockton. Scoring 17, dishing out 15 assists, pulling down 7 rebounds.
Malone with a pretty pass, and Pollina's left all alone for his first field goal.
And Arvydas Sabonis has an embarrassed look on his face, like, hey, how did I lose my guy like that? Here's another thing. You don't want to give Olden Pollina's an easy lay-in. You'd rather foul him, make him go earn it from the line. He shoots just 31% from the free throw line.
Good help from Pollina's. Pippen with a tough shot, still able to knock it down. Pippen yelling again at official Ronnie Nunn, feeling he was fouled. Both these teams do like to chirp quite a bit to the officials. Portland, of course, with Rasheed Wallace, that's talked about, but there have been a lot of technicals handed out in the series between the two. And you expect close games. Sometimes that can make a difference between a win and a loss, as both teams try and, especially Portland, remain under control. Malone finding Pollina's again. And Olden Pollina's left wide open on the second consecutive possession.
Well, this is something the Jazz learned from Seattle. Seattle did a lot of trapping hard on pick and rolls, trying to bottle up John Stockton. If they make 2 quick passes, they'll get those kind of scoring opportunities, and any kind of easy shot for Pollina is a plus.
The man they call Mighty Mouse goes inside, and an easy 2 for Stoudemire.
And Stoudemire will try to challenge Stockton as much as possible, try to beat him off the dribble, run him into some hard picks, make him work at the defensive end. Don't just let him be a good team defender, which he is.
Malone falling away. Misfires Sabonis and Polonese. And it's going to be Utah ball. And Sabonis and Polonese battling.
Well, Stoudemire getting a little crease in the defense there, finding that little opening. Will try to take it in there as much as possible. Stoudemire has more of a scoring guard mentality. He'd rather shoot and score than be a playmaker. But that's the way he has to play for this team in this series in particular.
Stockton off the mark. Ball knocked loose. Wallace quick outlet to Pippen. Jazz get back in a hurry. Pippen's going to try and take advantage of Onosek. Now slows it down. That's a three. Stoudemire from downtown. And a 4-point lead for Portland. Damon Stoudemire, 7 of the 12 points. Malone well short, but Wallace hit him. And Rasheed Wallace picks up his first. As a word with Danny Crawford.
Scottie Pippen getting down the floor very quickly, looking for the first post-up opportunity. I think he's a little bit surprised by Hornacek guarding him in this series. I think he probably anticipated Brian Russell was going to be more of a playmaker. This changes Scottie Pippen's role.
Malone goes to the free throw line where during the regular season shot just under 80% from the line. And when you talk about Karl Malone and the future Hall of Famer and all the great things he's done, he's worked at it. And the free throw shooting, number one, he was a horrible free throw shooter his rookie year, and he's now become a reliable one.
Well, he decided it was a mental problem for him his first couple of years. He decided to beat that just by talking to himself, and you see that. But he'll never tell anybody what it is he's saying to himself, but it's all positive reinforcement. But how about those numbers in the first series for Karl Malone? Aided quite a bit by 50 in game one.
You just take for granted what he's going to do night in and night out. Sabonis against Polonese. Blocked by Olden Polonese, who's come out with some energy, much like game 5. After that victory in the locker room, he was running around screaming, we're underdogs against Portland. Malone falling away, tough shot, he puts it in. Karl Malone with his first field goal.
Karl Malone telling us yesterday against Wallace, he likes to take him inside despite the height disparity because he can overpower. But we have seen him now 3 straight times take those little 1-foot fadeaway shots against Wallace.
Well, illegal defense whistled against Utah first, so just a warning. As Malone and the Jazz, despite playing on Friday night, coming out and shooting 56% from the field in the opening 6 minutes of the first quarter. 6:21 remaining, opening period, all even here at the Rose Garden. And Jazz tied at 12 in the first quarter, along with Matt Kukas, Mike Green on hand. Jerry Sloan said after one of the losses to Seattle, they came out with tuxedos. They didn't have their work clothes on. Well, there are no tuxes in the first quarter here today for them.
Well, I think Jerry Sloan's just trying to say he wanted to find out who's going to come and get their hands dirty. He knows night in and night out John Stockton and Karl Malone are going to do it, but he's trying to send a message to all the other players that they're going to have to be ready to go above and beyond every time out.
Our sideline reporter today is Lisa Malowski. Lisa?
Thanks, Mike. A very emotional week for the Portland Trailblazers. Early Friday morning, assistant coach Bill Musselman died just a month after being diagnosed with bone marrow cancer. He was 59. The Blazers are wearing black patches on the left shoulder of their jerseys in his honor. They've dedicated the season to him. I spoke with Damon Stoudemire before the game. He told me he talked with Coach Muss Tuesday. He said he got teary-eyed because he felt it was the last time he would speak with Coach Muss. He said he felt Muss was calling to say goodbye. Damon said, my grandmother passed away. I know that tone of voice. Mike, Musselman called every Blazers player this week. They'd love to win it all for him. Back to you.
Thank you, Lisa. And, of course, our prayers to Bill Musselman's wife and his children, including their son, Eric, who does such a terrific job down in Orlando and assisting with the Magic. And as a lot of the Blazers have been talking about last couple of days, as Bill Musselman in his last days was doing what he loved best, and that was coaching basketball, Matt.
Well, he was such an influence on this particular franchise and all the other teams that he coached for so many years. But with Mike Dunleavy and his staff, always so positive, so helpful, a wealth of knowledge. But now he tried to touch each and every player in just his short time this particular season with the ball club. And right up into the end, still making phone calls, still making messages, leaving messages, still trying to motivate.
Isley in the game for Stockton, who picked up that second foul. Hornacek nearly stolen. Isley for 3. Sabonis knocked out of his hands, but gets it back. 3-on-2 for Portland. Pippen, nice ball fake. Had nowhere to go, though. And Wallace just hangs on. Stoudemire. Sabonis trying to take advantage of the mismatch, and he does. Arvydas Sabonis played less minutes during the regular season, so it stayed fresh for the playoffs, and he had some big games against Minnesota.
Well, Portland continues to push the ball at every opportunity. What they're doing is causing some mismatches as Utah not able to get set up in their half-court defense. All kinds of mismatches here. Stoudemire had one on the outside against Polonese, but patiently waited for Sabonis to take the smaller Jeff Hornacek inside. Now the help comes, but then the seas open up as Karl Malone. Already John Stockton has 2 personal fouls. Karl Malone has to be very careful. He cannot get in foul trouble, not only in this game, throughout this series.
Smith just holding on. Shot clock already down to 8. Sabonis. Stoudemire sees that, tries to get around Polonese, an off-balance shot, tough one, and David Stoudemire has come out firing. He's 3 for 3 from the field for 9 points.
Well, he kept saying his role was so different in the last series against his friend Terrell Brandon and the Minnesota Timberwolves. It changes a little bit now. They want him to be more aggressive offensively, in particular against John Stockton, but Stoudemire has played extremely well against the backup Howard Isley.
Legal defense called that time, of course, so just a warning. Some players, Matt, have a tough time playing against someone they're friends with. Stoudemire and Brandon very friendly. Patrick Ewing and Alonzo Mourning sometimes, you'd think because of the energy they put out, they're so close, they have trouble. I remember Hall of Famer Walt Frazier telling me once he didn't socialize with players as Malone misfires because he felt he lost his edge if he became friends with an opponent.
Well, again, that's been talked about for many years. You look at the Ewing-Mourning situation, very close friends, yet once they get between the lines and once everything heats up, they start banging with each other, and about midway through the game, they hate each other.
Polonese can't handle that pass. One elbow, and you quickly realize
forget about that French stuff.
Right. And a whistle. Here we go against Isley. That's Isley's first, and the Jazz in the penalty. 4:15 remaining. Utah down by 5.
You think back in the late 80s with Isaiah Thomas and Magic Johnson, they were very close friends, but after a couple of trips to the finals playing against one another, they had some bitter battles physically and verbally, and I don't know if anything has ever been repaired since those days as far as their friendship is concerned.
Stoudemire now in double figures. And there you see now 18 consecutive years in the playoffs for Portland. That is the current longest streak. The all-time 22. You were part of some of those with Philadelphia, Matt.
Well, again, very fortunate to be on good teams. The one problem with that is, yes, you like the success, you like going to the playoffs, you like going deep, but you're very rarely picking very high in the draft, so you have to stock your team in different ways with free agency and with trades.
Portland a 7-0 run. Brian Grant, you saw it come in. Russell looking for Malone. They want to get Malone started up. Off the mark that time. Pippen and quickly in transition. Malone just 1 of 4 from the field. Smith, nice speed inside, and Grant able to finish. Straight points now for Portland. I correct earlier, with just over 3.5 remaining. The lead is up to 8.
Portland picking apart the Utah half-court defense. Karl Malone has to give up the jump shot for a while, go inside, try to get some power baskets to the hoop, or at least get fouled.
Hornacek not even close, and a loose ball foul falls against the Jazz and Karl Malone.
Well, it's this kind of tempo that Jerry Sloan did not want for his team, where Portland is pushing, forcing the action, getting themselves involved, getting the crowd involved, and Utah unable to get themselves set defensively, and they just seem not to be able to find their man, turning their heads, and Portland taking advantage of it. The way you really set the tempo, though, is at the offensive end. Make sure you be patient with the ball, move it around, get something inside.
Wallace misses the first this Tuesday. NBA.com unveils Sync TV, an online companion to each NBA playoff broadcast. Unique component providing fans with real-time game relevant stats, polls, and news, and the ability to interact with TV hosts and other fans online. NBA.com Sync TV, your cutting-edge way to follow every NBA playoff game. Wallace paddles around, shaking his head as he backtracks as he goes 1 of 2 from the line. 9 straight points for the Blazers as you see Utah struggling shooting the basketball. Rookie Quincy Lewis in the game right now. Jerry Sloan needs some offense. Paladis battling with Grant. Holden Paladis does not get the roll. Isley keeps it alive, and Lewis with a nice rebound, but can't finish. Scottie Pippen, Lewis trying to bother him, and he draws the foul. Pippen will shoot 2, and Portland dominating right now. The rookie Lewis with his first personal.
Well, when you get what are apparent easy basket opportunities as the rookie Quincy Lewis had right there, you've got to knock them down. That will slow Portland down as far as having to take the ball out of the basket. Now, that's not a bad shot for Holden Paladis. He does have that little jump hook in the lane. He can make a little 12 to 15-foot jump shot, but so far, where has Karl Malone been as far as being close to the basket? He's the guy that can really slow things down as far as scoring inside, getting fouled, and slowing down the freight train that the Portland Trailblazers are right now.
Paladis sits. Ostertag comes in. Right now, Portland 6 of 11 from the free throw line. If they were hitting their free throws, it'd be up huge. But there, with this free throw attempt by Pippen, that's 12 free throw attempts by Portland, just 2 for the Jazz. And the lead is 10. Jazz have not scored in nearly 4 minutes. Malone. Just 1 of 5 to start the game.
Karl has been short on just about every jump shot. He could have a reason to be tired after 44 minutes the other night in Game 5 against Seattle.
Jerry Sloan irate. He felt that Grant should have been called for travel, but the ball was deflected by one of the Jazz defenders. Pippen forces a 3. Won't go. Malone knocks it out of the hands of Grant. And Isley coming the other way. The Jazz shooting just 29% from the field, and there's the second illegal defense against the Trailblazers. So a technical foul as you see Sloan. I thought maybe just looking at his colleague. And we'll have a timeout after Isley goes to the free throw line for the 1-shot technical. It has been a real struggle offensively for the Jazz, but that is nothing new when they played the Blazers this year. Isley ends the drought of 4 minutes and 15 seconds without a point. Jazz still down 9. You're watching the NBA playoffs on NBC.
Taking it to John Stockton, getting the drives to the basket, knocking down the outside shot, using the pick and roll, finding the mid-guy as Damon Stoudemire is alive to start out Game 1 here against Utah. You see what he's done. 10 points so far. This one, he averaged just 11 points a game against Minnesota.
Stoudemire was the 3rd leading scorer during the regular season, just over 12 a game. Isley, Russell, Malone, Ostertag, and Quincy Lewis out there for Utah. 7 on the shot clock. Russell won't go. Portland gets it back. And Stockton out with the 2 fouls. You see the difference. Now, Stoudemire was scoring even when Stockton was on the floor, but it's at the other end, the offensive end, where the Jazz obviously out of sync with Stockton on the bench.
Well, John Stockton is out of there primarily because of the 2 fouls, but normally he'd come out 6 minutes into the first quarter. That's when he gets his rest. So it's a combination of the 2 things, and I think since this is Game 1 of a 7-game series, Jerry Sloan's going to even watch the minutes more of John Stockton, having used him so much in Game 5 against Seattle. Same thing with Karl Malone. Yet he does not want to let this game get too far away from him. He knows he needs Stockton and Malone on the floor.
Malone's pass deflected, but last touch by Ostertag, and that's 4 turnovers for Utah. Minute and a half remaining in Game 1, first quarter. Wallace against Malone. Single coverage. Wallace inside. Ostertag got a piece of it, and Malone wrestles it away. Some extra elbows flying there in the crowd, not appreciative.
And Wallace running back on defense, yelled to the referee, say, hey, watch the elbows. He must have gotten clipped by a Karl Malone special.
Malone finding Ostertag, and he's fouled by Stoudemire on the way up. They had physical series last year. So far, it's been the same way this year.
Portland wants to go at Karl Malone when they can, too, and Wallace has that good turnaround. And Karl Malone, if he doesn't strip you down low, you can pretty much get that shot over him. But after Karl got that rebound, a little extracurricular activity, and of course he doesn't mind hitting somebody in the opposite color shirt anytime.
Armin Gilliam comes in for Malone. He'll sit down for 1:08 here in the first quarter. Ostertag to the free throw line. And at the first, reminder, next Sunday, it's the Saturday Night Live 25th anniversary special with the funniest comedy and hottest music, plus the cast and host from 25 years together on one stage. A terrific show. Saturday Night Live 25th anniversary special in primetime next Sunday at 8, 7 Central on NBC. 2 misses from Ostertag. Stoudemire very aggressive offensively. Grant, good position down low. Ostertag, nice recovery after going for the initial fake.
Always a very dangerous time for the Utah Jazz when both John Stockton and Karl Malone are out of the game. It's really a search to try to find some offense, but they found it there from Howard Eisley.
Eisley, who continues to get better and better, career-high numbers in many categories this year, gives the Jazz their first field goal in nearly 6 minutes. Smith for 3. Smith has been shooting 50% from three-point range in the playoffs.
And the reason for the quick 3 there was Portland looking for a 2-for-1 situation. But both teams want to stay away, normally, from that quick outside jump shot. It's what gets them in trouble offensively.
Eisley a little dangerous on the dribble, nearly knocked away. 5 on the shot clock. Russell fires in and out. And a loose ball foul called on Ostertag. And the Blazers will shoot. Not a smart foul from Ostertag with just 4.7 seconds remaining in the quarter.
Talking to the Utah coaches, they all say it is imperative that they get something from Olden Polynice and Greg Ostertag. Now, it doesn't necessarily always have to be scoring. Presence in the lane defensively, little shot blocking, some defense, catching the ball. But anytime they can score, that is a major plus, because against this big, bulky, brawny front line of Portland, they have to be some kind of a factor. Ostertag and Polynice and Armin Gilliam.
Greg Anthony comes in for Portland. Of course, the bench a big reason for the Blazers' success. Stoudemire, terrific first quarter play. And Grant now part of that bench. Detlef Schrempf checks in. Grant, of course, had the knee surgery the offseason, missed early games, and had the foot problem in March. Has not been healthy much of the year, but getting very close to 100% as he misses the free throw. And he's such a big part of their physical presence. Russell had plenty of time and took it a little bit too early. And that will end the first quarter. A rough one offensively for the Jazz. Not so, though, from David Stoudemire. As Stoudemire comes out firing not only the 10 points, but 2 assists. And perfect from the field. It's game 1 of the Western Conference semifinals here at the Rose Garden. The Trailblazers' second-best record during the regular season. They've got an 8-point lead after 1. Blazers create as much problems defensively for he and the Jazz as any team in the league.
You have to make them play you the whole 24 seconds. Don't take quick shots and go to the body and rebound. That's going to be a big key in this series is the big guy stepping up and rebound.
Well, Utah was reasonably patient with the ball. They made Portland move side to side defensively. A couple of turnovers there, but then they didn't knock the ball down. And, of course, some run-out opportunities for Portland, putting the transition defense of Utah under duress, unable to find their matchup. And consequently, the Blazers got some easy baskets of their own at the other end.
Let's send it over to Lisa Milowski.
Well, Mike, Coach Jerry Sloan was addressing just that issue. He said to his guys, you are not getting to your spots on offense. I want you to push the ball up, but that doesn't mean taking just one shot. Make them play defense. Move the ball on offense. Mike?
Thank you, Lisa. Interesting lineup Sloan has out there right now. Jacques Vaughn, Howard Eisley, Quincy Lewis, Armin Gilliam, and Greg Ostertag. There's Russell, Malone, Stockton, and Hornacek all on the bench right now.
Now, Jerry Sloan did tell us last night that he was going to go deeper to his bench because of the amount of minutes that his core players had to play in Game 5, and this being Game 1 of this series, to try to get a feeling out process. See who's, as he said, not worn their tuxedo to the game.
Gilliam flips it up there, does not get the bounce. Had a good look, but that was not a good shot. Gilliam has struggled shooting in the playoffs. They need him when Malone sits down to provide some offensive punch down low. Grant slotted away. Lewis coming over to help out on defense.
So far, the size of Greg Ostertag, just standing straight and tall, keeping his arms up, has bothered Brian Grant.
Ostertag, one of the leading shot blockers, always in the top 10 despite limited minutes. Gilliam tied up, bad pass stolen by Shrimp. Shrimp wants to post up Jacques Vaughn. Smith wisely looks to take advantage, and Shrimp can't connect.
You know, Mike, Armin Gilliam really isn't a low post player back to the basket. That doesn't mean he can't score that way. He likes to catch the ball facing at about 17 feet, either side, preferably the right side. And he's got a very good move going into the lane with his left hand, but he's got to step out and face up to be effective.
Lewis, the rookie, knocks it down from 3. Terrific shooter at Minnesota. He's been inconsistent in the NBA in his rookie season, which is no surprise. A lot of young players go through that.
Well, you come to Jerry Sloan with a scoring mentality, which Quincy Lewis has, having led the Big Ten in scoring. You better learn defense in a hurry if you're going to get into playing time.
It's not shortchanged. The Jazz defense, always one of the better defensive teams, as Anthony misfires. The Blazers have now missed their last 8 shots. 5-point lead for Portland. 2 minutes gone by in the second. And Sloan, with his best players on the bench, getting some quality minutes right now. Grant, the rebound. Well, what a difference he makes when he's healthy. Brian Grant provides such toughness down low.
He gives his team an identity with how hard he plays, relentlessly going to the basket, banging bodies, not asking for anything, just dishing it out time and time again. And, of course, that series last year against Utah when he and Karl Malone were going there, it looked like Brian took the worst of it, but it was a very, very physical confrontation between those two.
Another illegal defense whistled against the Jazz, so a technical foul. Steve Smith will go there. And Smith gets his first point of the afternoon. We're in 2.5 gone by. Second quarter. The Jazz still trailing by 6. 6-point lead for the Trailblazers. Still early second quarter, game 1 of this Western Conference semifinal. Stockton and Hornacek still on the bench, along with several others, as Jerry Sloan has let his reserves get some good quality minutes here. Malone also sitting as is Russell.
Oh, I'm sure Jerry Sloan not happy with the way his team is playing so far, but the 7 for 29 from the field, power move inside by Detlef Schrempf, but just 7 for 29 for the Utah Jazz. Yet at that break, they're only 6 down.
That's because they went 7 minutes without a field goal. Bonzi Wells, you see, guarding Jacques Vaughn. Wells, a very explosive player off the bench. Gilliam, that's the shot that he likes, and he nails it, just like you said, Matt. He's got some pretty good range from 17 to 18 feet.
Always more comfortable facing the basket. Now, having made that jump shot, if the defense comes out on him, he's got the ability to put the ball on the floor a couple, 2-3 times to get it closer to the basket.
Sabonis good catch in traffic down low, and he's hammered by Ostertag, where Sabonis will now shoot 2. Ostertag is second personal.
Well, Ostertag having some success against the smaller Brian Grant, getting hung up on the screen by Bonzi Wells, getting all out of position, and once Ostertag commits himself, it's just a whole bunch of big, wide bodies banging away at one another.
Speaking of big, wide bodies, Sabonis knocks down the first. He's just huge down there. You see on the floor an unlikely lineup from the Jazz. You rarely see all 4 of those top players in Stockton, Malone, Hornacek, and Russell off the floor at the same time. I can't remember the last time, man.
Well, Mike, it happens, and it happens quite a bit in second quarters, and it's been a problem for Jerry Sloan and the Jazz throughout this season. They try to muddle through. It used to be they had Shandon Anderson here, who was very good as far as being a post-up player, picking up some of the scoring load, but they lost Shandon Anderson as a free agent to Houston and really got nothing in return, didn't even try to do, or seemingly didn't try to do a sign and trade to get something coming back.
Greg Anthony picks up the foul. Shot clock was winding down. Isley drew it. First foul on Anthony. They came up big in the Game 5 on Friday night. As we mentioned, Malone with the 27 points. Stockton had the 15 assists. And despite the heroics, it came down to a final shot that could have forced the game in overtime. Lewis off the mark. Blazers looking to push.
Bonzi Wells, I'm sure, looking to get something going in this series. Never could get involved against Minnesota. Didn't get playing time in the last couple of games. But he can be a very effective player against Utah with his power game against other two guards.
Quincy Lewis again helping out on defense. Isley knocks down the shot. That's twice now Lewis has helped defenses forced a turnover. And this Jazz bench doing a nice job keeping them in the game. They're just down 6. Anthony forces it inside, blocked by Ostertag. Lewis quick outlet, and Vaughn waiting for some numbers.
It's almost as if Brian Grant doesn't realize Greg Ostertag's a little over 7 foot, is a pretty good shot blocker. He continually tries to take the ball right through his nose.
Isley, nice move inside, knocked out of his hands, and the Blazers come the other way. Neither team shooting the ball well, but you have to credit the defenses for those numbers. Bonzi Wells, nice move, won't finish. Offensive foul as he pushed off with the left arm. Ostertag's presence once again.
There's that mismatch that Bonzi Wells, Mike Dunleavy feel they have against the smaller Howard Isley. He's a very tough customer, very strong, whether he's posting up or barreling his way to the basket, but good defensive help. Obviously, the look of astonishment on the face of Bonzi Wells. Couldn't believe the call. He didn't think he wiped out with the off arm.
Good call from Ronnie Nunn. Good officiating crew on hand this afternoon in what will be a difficult series to referee. Danny Crawford, Nunn, and Mike Callahan, the 3 officials. Vaughn trying to draw the foul, and he does. Wells quickly picks up his second, and Jacques Vaughn will shoot 2. And a timeout is called by Portland.
Well, so important for Utah to get some running opportunities. They would prefer layups, but when these short jumpers go down, they'll certainly take them. That'll take some pressure off half-court execution for Utah.
Jacques Vaughn will shoot 2 free throws when we come back. Jazz down 6. You're watching the NBA playoffs on NBC.
To me, this isn't a hobby.
Game 2 of that Eastern Conference semifinals on Monday night on TBS, 8 o'clock Eastern time, as the Pacers winning Game 1. So much for having all the extra rest for Larry Brown and the Philadelphia 76ers. So the Pacers leading that 1-0. Miami winning at home in Game 1 that you saw earlier on NBC against the Knicks. Game 2 in Miami on Tuesday of that series. And the Western Conference Finals getting underway today. Game 1 here in Portland, and later on NBC we'll have Phoenix and the Lakers from the Staples Center. And the Suns now with Jason Kidd back and the confidence they displayed in the San Antonio series. They're kind of a wild card, Matt. Be interesting to see how they match up.
Well, again, it's so many problems in trying to defend Shaquille O'Neal inside. You got Luke Longley, Oliver Miller as far as big bodies, but it's a very difficult proposition.
Because of the success of Kevin Johnson, I understand Alvin Adams will suit up today for the Suns. Try to help him down low.
What, no Truck Robinson?
4-point game. Portland's led by as many as 10. Bonzi Wells. Ostertag the rebound.
Oh, Mike Dunleavy is desperately trying to get Bonzi Wells going. He wants to have experience some kind of success at either end of the floor to try to rekindle that confidence that she has seemed to have lost.
8 on the shot clock. Ostertag against Sabonis. And he's fouled on the pass-off. That's going to be just the 3rd team foul against the Blazers, and Sabonis picks up his 2nd. Of course, the Lakers advancing in 5, as did Utah. Portland and Phoenix getting by in 4 games. That last foul, by the way, was on Wallace. That's his 2nd. Gilliam inside. What kind of a running start. Able to put it in.
They're the best kind. A little hop, step, and a jump.
And look at this, a 2-point game. And it's been the unlikely bunch on the floor right now for Utah to get him right back in it. The foul called on Jacques Vaughn.
Well, about the 1:08 mark of the first quarter, both John Stockton, who had already been on the bench, that's a walk, got away with it, but once again, Armin Gilliam facing the basket is a much better offensive player. And then when Karl Malone went out, the score was 22-13 in favor of Portland. But this group that Jerry Sloan has put out there, no pressure, they're the underdogs, kind of playing free and loose and having some success right now.
Sabonis, Vaughn knocks it away. Last touch by Stoudemire. And it's defensively that has given him this confidence out there right now.
And a big part of it is they're back defensively and able to set up, and they are a good team, defensive team. They play situations very well. They help out one another. The problem in the first quarter was they weren't able to get back, and Portland was able to pick them apart before the defense could get set.
Detlo Tremp told us yesterday, when Portland has its problems, it's on the offensive end. And they're struggling right now. Vaughn, wild, throws it away, tried to draw the foul. Stoudemire. Good transition defense from Utah. Trent inside. And a whistle and a blocking foul called against Isley. Isley chatting with Mike Callahan, but it's Trent who will go to the free throw line as Pippen returns for Portland.
To try to restore some order at the offensive end, get the ball moving around. And there again, it's Bonzi Wells going to the bench, unable to get anything going. And when you have just one player out there struggling, but trying to get off, it generally will mess up the other four players out on the floor. But Mike, now 3 times we've seen the Utah Jazz guards. Once Stockton, once Hornacek, and now Jacques Vaughn penetrating too deep, getting in trouble, and turning the ball over. Now, you want to attack the defense. You want to go at the big people, but you've got to be very careful. If you can't get all the way to the basket, make sure you pull up in that little area about 8 to 10 feet away, draw the defense, and make that next extra pass rather than the turnover.
The free throw is good from Tremp. Lead back to 4. Now, normally you'd see some of the big players for Utah back in the game by now, but because Jazz are playing so well, Jerry Sloan riding them a bit.
And it can buy more time for John Stockton.
Vaughn, that's a 3 from Jacques Vaughn. And the lead has been cut to 1. Terrific play from the Jazz bench. Sabonis thinking about the 3. Gilliam, a pretty good low post defender, blocks it on Wallace, and Vaughn picks up the loose ball. Just superb defense from the Jazz reserves. Gilliam has it poked away. Sabonis call for a reach-in foul. That's his first and the team's 4th.
You know, a lot of times what happened when key players are out, whether it's foul problems or getting arrests, sometimes the other team relaxes a little bit, as Jacques Vaughn continues to do a good job both ends of the floor. And I think Portland's in that mindset right now. They're looking around saying, hey, these are the deep backups. These are the people that aren't really going to hurt us, and they have kind of lost their edge.
Ball knocked away by Pippen with the steal. And Gilliam fouls him. And a 2-shot foul where Scottie Pippen will go to the free throw line. Armin Gilliam with his first personal. 7th turnover by the Jazz.
Scottie Pippen, always alert defensively, and because of his experience, knows that when a team is struggling offensively, the way to get yourself going is make things happen at the defensive end, go down, get an easy basket, break up the rhythm of the other team. And that's where Scottie Pippen gives the biggest point of leadership. And the other Portland Trailblazers point that out all the time. He's constantly talking to his teammates about defense, about playing together defensively, about being disruptive.
Of course, game 1 of the other Western Conference semifinal coming up next after our coverage from Portland. The Phoenix Suns, Penny Hardaway against his former Magic teammate, Shaquille O'Neal, and the Lakers. Hardaway's got some help now with Jason Kidd with the new dude going up against the Lakers.
And having much more fun as a blonde.
3-point lead for Portland. Coming up on 4 minutes remaining in the first half. The Jazz have to be thrilled with where this game is, the way they started. And with the foul problems, Ostertag's tip won't go, but he got fouled. Stoudemire from behind with the push. And Ostertag will shoot 2.
Now we're singing the praises of Scottie Pippen defensively. Got stood straight up by Howard Isley. In that situation, you don't want to get broken down defensively. You heard Scottie Pippen say, my fault. You just want to try to contain, make him take a jump shot, go straight up. Because when you get beaten off the dribble, that's when bad things can happen behind you. Your big people get in foul trouble, or worse, possible 3-point play opportunity.
Ostertag knocks down the first. You see the couple of block shots. He's averaging 2.5 blocks a game so far in the playoffs. One exceptional game against the Sonics in the first round. Under 4 minutes remaining, first half from the Rose Garden. Wallace trying to go backdoor Gilliam. Good ball denied. Sabonis, that's a 2. Gilliam trying to save it. Did he get timeout? I don't believe so. No, knocked out of bounds, so it's going to be Portland ball. Looked like he was thinking about it. He felt he was pushed. 2:24 for Portland.
Defensive rebounding, a big key for the Jazz in this series. The big people have to block out. The guards have to get back inside to try to help out in rebounding situations.
Here's it, Karl Malone. That's a bad spot to be at the end of the bench, part of that collision. Smith inside and takes advantage of Howard Isley. That's a tough matchup and will be the entire series with Steve Smith at his size at the 2 guard.
Karl Malone has had more problems off the court. In Game 5, he went into the stands in his home building and ran into some Seattle fans and had a little altercation.
Gilliam forces it in there. Good hands from Lewis to get it back. 5 on the shot clock. Lewis tied up. Not a good shot from the rookie. Vaughn just flips it up there. Ball knocked loose. And it's going to be Utah ball. The shot clock went off, but it hit the rim.
And Armin Gilliam doing a good job of blocking out on Wallace and trying to get this ball, but then trying to also catch the ball and call timeout. It's not funny. It looked like knee on knee as Armin Gilliam banged right into Karl Malone, who's saying, hey, I'm sitting here, I'm having a bad game, I can't make a shot, bothering nobody, and my own teammate comes over here and knees me.
And they're checking him out, obviously. And a 5-second violation. Excellent ball denial from the Blazers. You don't see a lot of those. Malone limping off to the locker room with 2:58 remaining in the second. It's a poor sportsmanship here from the Portland crowd. They're cheering as Malone limps off.
It appeared that Armin Gilliam's knee hit Karl Malone's knee. That's always a painful proposition, but hopefully certainly not a serious one.
Well, that does not look like it's just a minor bang, the way he was severely limping to the locker room. Smith able to knock it down, and the lead back to 6.
To get Karl Malone out of the game or to miss the game, you pretty much have to, well, you just can't do it. You got to suspend him. It's the only way he misses games.
Vaughn knocks it down. Malone may be the best conditioned NBA player of all time. It's amazing the kind of shape he's in. And even when he is banged up, as you mentioned, Matt, he's always on the floor. Under 2.5 left in the second quarter. We'll get an update on Malone's condition shortly. Pippen gets inside. Sabonis to Smith. One dribble. Shot won't go. Gilliam with the rebound. Malone playing just 11 minutes here in the first half. Stockton just 6. Hornacek just 9. But they're only down by 6. Isley's done a good job running the offense. Knocked away by Pippen. Loose ball. Stoudemire flips it ahead and a foul on Quincy Lewis. So the turnover hurting with just under 2 minutes remaining here in the second quarter. 4-point game as you're watching the NBA on NBC. Of course, the Lakers already thinking about perhaps who they'll play in the next round, but you have to. Kurt Rambis now doing some scouting on hand here for Game 1 at the Rose Garden in Portland.
Former coach of the Los Angeles Lakers last year, taking over for Del Harris. Kurt looks a lot less frazzled and more well-rested this year.
Just under 2 minutes remaining in the second. Jazz only down by 4. But again, Karl Malone severely limping off the floor after, while sitting on the bench, getting hit in the knee by Armin Gilliam, who's chasing after a loose ball. Stoudemire now to the free throw line. Karl Malone, you could pretty much call the Cal Ripken of the NBA. No, AC Green gets that because of his consecutive game streak, but the way Malone plays deep in the playoffs every year, his physical nature, it's amazing how he's just on the floor night in, night out. Just missed 3 games his entire career due to injury. Missed a few for suspension, but he's always out there. Gilliam. Isley was open, but Pippen was in the vicinity. 7 on the shot clock. Smith trying to get Lewis. Feed inside. Not a good pass. Knocked away by Pippen. Pippen firing it down low. Stoudemire. And Lewis poked Smith in the eye. The reaction of Smith warranting that call, but he did get hit. And Lewis with his 3rd personal, asking if Smith's okay.
Now, Mike, that's 4 times the Utah guards have penetrated too deep. Now, shot clock was winding down. Obviously, Utah, this is the way they play, but they also trying to take a page out of the Minnesota Timberwolves book, a book that executed so well against Portland's tough defense by keep making the extra pass, probing the defense, making them work. That's what Utah wants to do. They're working the shot clock down. He's not getting good looks at the basket.
Let's get a report on Karl Malone with Lisa Milosky. Lisa?
Hey, Mike, I'm standing outside the Utah Jazz locker room. Karl Malone has a sprained left knee, the medial collateral ligament. He said he was getting up trying to avoid Armin Gilliam. His foot got stuck under Armin's foot, and it kind of pulled his knee out of joint. He's in a lot of pain. They still don't know if he will return. We'll have more after the half. Back to you, Mike.
Thank you, Lisa. So a freak play, and Malone's status uncertain right now. The lead back to 8 for Portland. Vaughn off balance, puts it in. Jacques Vaughn able to knock it down. And Vaughn with 7 points and 5 rebounds off the bench. Some big play from the former Kansas star. Smith, the quick turnaround. And a height advantage working for the Blazers.
That was pretty much the mindset of the Portland Trailblazers coming into this series, that Steve Smith would get plenty of good post opportunities against smaller point guards, which means that you have to come double team, and then all kinds of problems open up.
Gilliam with the left hand way off the mark, and Pippen picks it up. Final half minute of the 2nd quarter. Stoudemire all the time, can't connect. Ball tipped in by Rasheed Wallace. That's Wallace's first field goal.
And for most of this first half, Utah has done a good job with their big people as far as getting a body on their big people, but they lost contact with Rasheed Wallace there, and when you do, you pay the price.
Vaughn driving hard. Shot won't go. Knocked loose. Picked up by Padgett. Padgett blocked by Wallace with 6/10 of a second remaining. And the Blazers getting a standing ovation.
And with 6/10, you do have time to catch and fire a shot right away.
Jerry Sloan upset. The clock went off, kept running for perhaps a half a second or more after the buzzer or after the whistle. Sloan has a legitimate beat there. I watched when the ball went out of bounds and the clock kept moving for several tenths of a second. They lob it in. Ostertag tried to tip it. And that will end the first half. David Stoudemire, the only player in double figures. Ostertag on the Jazz bench playing hard. But it's Portland who walks off with the double-digit lead. Let's send it to Lisa Milosky.
Damon, you're shaking your head. Why?
Because we got to pick up our defensive intensity. You know, we should be winning this game by a lot more points than what we're winning. You know, we got to concentrate at the free throw line, you know, execute a little bit better on offense, and I think we'll be all right.
Damon, how disappointing. The Jazz bench has really been playing strong. I think that may have been an opportunity for the Blazers to take control.
Yeah, I think that's why I'm so disappointed right now. Utah's bench definitely stepped up for him, but we're going to have an answer for him in the second half.
All right, Jamin, thanks for joining us. Let's send it back to Mike.
All right, Lisa, the key story right now, though, certainly for Utah, Karl Malone, who sprained his knee while sitting on the bench. Armin Gilliam, his teammate on the floor at the time, scrambling for a loose ball. They collided, and Malone with a sprained knee. Still uncertain if he'll return. Once again, our score at the half, 44-34, Portland by 10. Now stay tuned for net zero at the half. Coming up right after these messages. You're watching the NBA playoffs.
Medical staff. Hi, everybody. Hannah Storm, along with Isaiah Thomas, Mike Fratello, Peter Bessie's in Miami, getting post-game reaction from that game. So we'll hear from him in our next segment. What a bizarre sequence there as Armin Gilliam chasing a loose ball makes contact with Malone, who was sitting on the bench, and there you can see Malone grimacing in pain. And, Mike, have you ever seen anything like this?
No, I haven't, and let's go back and realize what took place. Stockton, Hornacek, 6 minutes, 8 minutes, and Malone only 11 minutes in the game. They had not played in the second quarter as Jerry Sloan went with his second unit. So here you are on the bench. You're crashed into by your own teammate. This is a guy in 15 years that's only missed 6 basketball games, 3 to suspension, 3 to injury. We're talking 25 points, 10 rebounds. What's it mean? It's like Shaq, take him away from L.A., Mourning, take him away from Miami. That's what they're facing right now.
The only player in double figures, and Karl Malone suffering that sprained knee in the second quarter. Apparently will start the third quarter when we return here at the Rose Garden. Sports, not just the NBA, is out there despite the sprained knee, and I don't think that's overly dramatic, Matt, because this guy, what he does all the time, and he looked really hurt in that second quarter when he limped off with a sprained knee, but he's out there, no brace, nothing. Only played 11 minutes in the first half. Stockton only played 6 minutes in the first half, picked up 2 quick fouls. Sabonis the rebound. Hornacek only 8 minutes.
Keeping an eye on Karl Malone. He wants to start this third quarter, see how he feels. Settled for 5 jump shots early in his stint in the first quarter, only making 1 of them. He's going to have to establish something inside.
Russell a block, but a foul. This was the injury in the second quarter. Malone on the bench.
Take a look at the right hand of Rasheed Wallace on the back of Gilliam. A pretty hearty shove there, forcing Gilliam off balance, and apparently Armin Gilliam stepped on the foot of Karl Malone as he was trying to get himself out of harm's way there, and that's where the twist came.
Sabonis hits the first. There you see this year, it's not just Malone and Stockton. They all have to follow suit. Of course, Hornacek is the slacker of the bunch.
And Jerry Sloan says they don't miss practices either. They come and give you more than an honest day's effort in a 2-hour practice in the course of the long 82-game season.
Tribute to Hornacek, only missing 5 games with the condition of his left knee. Of course, one of the reasons why he's retiring, that he played all but just 5 games. They're an amazing team in how they just come ready to play every single night. Hornacek knocks down the jumper, and that's his first field goal. And again, did not play much in the first half.
Karl Malone didn't explore anything there. Got some decent post position. Not typical Karl Malone along the edge of the lane or in the paint, but caught it, quickly gave it up. You also want to try to get Jeff Hornacek going.
7 on the shot clock. Stoudemire out to Wallace. Wallace misfires. Stoudemire, though, deflects it, keeps it alive. Russell could not get the long rebound.
Karl Malone tried to just go at the shooter and keep going, possibly get down the floor for an easy basket. Most of the Utah Jazz big men will do that. But sometimes you get burnt giving up second shot opportunities.
Good help from Polides, but an illegal defense whistle. And it goes against Brian Russell, so a technical foul.
There's that bench of the Utah Jazz outscoring Portland 22-7. Their counterparts on the bench. And the reason why they were able to score some points is look at all those minutes that they got to play, because Hornacek, Stockton, and Malone spent so much time on the bench.
How about Jacques Vaughn leading the team in scoring with 9? Vaughn had only 4 points the entire Seattle series. Didn't even play the last couple of games. As you see the dynamic duo, the future Hall of Famers, what they did in the first half.
But I know it was in the back of the mind of Jerry Sloan coming into this game with Stockton and Malone playing 44 and 41 minutes in Game 5 against Seattle just about 48 hours ago. He wanted to be very careful with their minutes, in particular in the first half, just try to stay in this game and gear up for the fourth quarter and try to steal one here at the Rose Garden.
Sabonis had to throw it up, but Smith with the offensive rebound. Nearly throws it away, but they get another 24. Russell's had both those rebounds, just couldn't get the timing down. Smith trying to draw the foul. Excellent defense from Russell. Wallace inside. Gets the lucky bounce. He's staring at Ronnie Nunn. He thought there was a foul. Now he stares at Mike Callahan. The other official, Dan Crawford, goes unstared at on this particular possession.
Utah did an excellent job of rebounding in that first half, 24-16. Now getting hurt here in the early part of the third quarter. It was poor shooting and turnovers that hurt the Jazz for the most part in the first half, as Jeff Hornacek starting to find the range.
Hornacek cuts it to 11. When it was a 13, that's the largest of the game. Stoudemire short. Polynice picks it up. Stockton the only Jazz ahead. Hornacek for three. Jeff Hornacek from downtown. Scoreless in the first half. He's got 7 points in less than 3 minutes.
Well, you had to say to yourself, where was John Stockton going? 1-on-1 as far as going against Arvydas Sabonis, but knew he had some trailers coming, trying to buy some time, trying to get his teammates to pick up the tempo a little bit.
Hornacek called for the foul. Polynice takes him away from Mike Callahan. Hornacek was called for a technical foul in the Seattle series.
Hornacek getting in amongst the Giants there, kicking it back out, finding Olden Polynice, who wisely finds the shooter. And Jeff Hornacek and Scottie Pippen at this end of the floor having some words as it got a little physical there.
Smith, a little stutter step. Stoudemire, nice ball fake from Stoudemire. The high arcing shot won't go. Malone takes it away from Pippen. Malone knocks down Wallace. And here come the Jazz the other way.
That's how Utah has to rebound. Big guys have to throw their bodies in there, seal the other big guys off for Portland, and the guards, Stockton, Hornacek, have to come in and help out and pick off those loose rebounds.
Pippen takes it away from Hornacek. A nice pass inside, but Hornacek couldn't get the wild shot to go down, but he hits many of those. Stoudemire deflected by Hornacek. Hornacek, of course, retiring after this season. The night before Game 5 against Seattle, his wife had a dream and woke up from the dream that they lost the game. That's how much it's on the mind. It's been very hard on the family. The kids were all upset during the game on Friday night, thinking it may be Dad's last game.
Mike, I think the family's taking it harder than Jeff. Jeff is resigned to the fact. I think he's looking forward to the days. His knee is still going to hurt every morning that he wakes up, but until he gets it fixed or operated on or whatever. But he knows he's had a very long, productive 14-year career, and there's just no gas left in that tank.
After the traveling violation, Steve Smith called for the foul down the other end. That's his first. Four minutes gone by here in the third. Jazz again within 8. Stockton. They want to get it to Malone. Single coverage with Wallace. Malone gets his own rebound, puts it back up and in.
That's the first strong inside move for Karl Malone in this game. Shot clock was winding down, able to stay with it to get the second shot opportunity.
Just his second field goal, and he was wincing as he came down the floor. Wallace banging. Good aggressive move from Rasheed Wallace.
That's smart basketball on the part of Mike Dunleavy and the Portland Trailblazers. Go at Karl Malone the other way. They sense that Karl is going to try to get something going at the offensive end. They want to make him work defensively as much as possible.
Wallace picks up his third foul, and for Portland, their second team foul. Pippen trying to help out, but Hornacek brings him away. Hornacek gets inside, pass deflected, knocked away. Wallace falls down, and there's an instance, I think, where with Malone's knee, he just didn't have the lateral movement there to try and dive on it, take it away.
It wasn't Karl's normal dive into the pile, bang some bodies, dig out the ball. It was very gingerly kind of finding himself on the floor, hoping to get two hands on it. So obviously that knee bothering him.
Polynice and Rasheed Wallace will put it up. Malone, of course, now in his 15th year. 10 of the years he has played the entire season, the 82 games. And as we mentioned earlier, he's missed just 6 games in his career, and 3 of them because of suspension. Falling away, tough shot won't go. Ball knocked out of Wallace, and Sabonis able to control.
Tried the repost there with Karl Malone to get it going. Normally got to swing that ball.
Polynice may have gotten a piece of it. Stoudemire feels he got a piece of the arm. Hornacek fires away. Off the mark, Pippen ran at him, perhaps distracting. Not a flash there, but the Jazz get back on defense. Stoudemire, still the game's leading scorer. 5 on the shot clock. Pippen inside. Scottie Pippen now with 9 points.
Excellent job by the Portland Trailblazers swinging the ball. Smith started to drive, spotted the mismatch inside. Pippen against Hornacek. Anytime you swing the ball, both of these teams in the half court, you'll find good scoring opportunities.
Nice two-man play from Hornacek and Stockton. They are of a vanishing breed. Pippen backing in. Little jump hook from Scottie Pippen. Now, Jeff Hornacek is a good athletic player and a pretty good defender, but with his knees so bad, he's had his problems this year, and guarding Pippen is very difficult.
You got a strength problem, you got a height problem, and again, they're trying to keep Hornacek off Steve Smith, who Jerry Sloan feels is the better post-up threat, but Scottie Pippen has certainly taken advantage of it in today's game.
Malone, and a foul. Karl Malone picks up the loose ball after Hornacek's shot didn't go, and Karl Malone with a chance for the three-point play. And we'll have a timeout.
Scottie Pippen making himself available. The mismatch inside. Steve Smith finds him. He knows he can turn and shoot over Hornacek as John Stockton on a little cut and post of his own against the smaller Damon Stoudemire. And once again, Scottie Pippen going to the well. He feels very confident shooting that little shot over Jeff Hornacek.
This game featuring 3 of the top 50 players of all time in NBA history. And with 5:21 remaining, third quarter in game 1, the Jazz trailing by 8. A free throw when we return. The Suns. Malone will go to the line. Malone again spraining the knee in the second quarter. But there are a lot of stories about him getting hurt and coming back on. Bill Schonely, the longtime Trailblazer announcer here in Portland, said he remembers just a few years ago, Malone before a game couldn't even get his sneaker on because the previous game he had badly sprained his ankle. It had ballooned up, all black and blue, could barely get the sneaker on, but he did put it on, went out and scored 32 points and beat the Portland Trailblazers.
I remember 2 seasons ago, Karl basically played with a broken finger on his shooting hand the whole season. He's almost immune to injury. He hurts just like the rest of us, but he just will not give in to injury.
I think it's fair to say he has a high threshold of pain. There's another one, too, when he badly dislocated one of his fingers. It was practically hanging off the way it looked. Went back in the locker room, and he screamed in pain as they put it back in place, and he said, I want to go back out and play. Maybe he might not think it's a big deal, but it was a preseason game. Pippen with 5 on the shot clock. Stoudemire. Sabonis left open, and Arvydas Sabonis says the shot clock expires, knocks it down.
Damon Stoudemire is having an excellent game. Came out in the first quarter, very offensive-minded, trying to take it to John Stockton. Has settled down now, becoming more of a playmaker, trying to get the Portland Trailblazers under control at the offensive end, where they can get out of sorts.
He's unable to get the pass, but Pippen a reason for that. Pippen says good call, and he picks up his second personal.
Oh, it's nice to have a big 7-footer that you can throw the ball deep into the low post, make things happen. That same 7-footer can go about 7'3", I guess he is, can step outside, even shoot some three-point shots, but it's an excellent perimeter shooter out about 18 feet.
Malone, pass deflected. Stockton able to get it back, fires it, and it'll be a turnover. The 11th turnover for the Jazz.
Timing way off between Karl Malone and John Stockton. Karl limping back, and you can tell he is thinking about his discomfort right now. He normally would not try to force that ball inside. They do make that little slip cut and that pass often, but they usually connect.
Stoudemire off the mark. Top of the backboard is inbounds, so that's legal as long as it doesn't go over the backboard. Stockton for 3. Won't go. Sabonis the rebound. Stockton felt he was hit on the shot. And a whistle and a foul call against Brian Russell, who'll pick up his 3rd. Again, the ball can hit on the top of the backboard, and that's in bounds. The bottoms, the sides, and the top, as long as it doesn't go over. And the officials wisely not blowing the whistle there. Russell just at 2 points, and he scored early. Didn't play a lot in the first half. They'll need his offense if they want to make a comeback in this one.
Well, Mike Dunleavy was telling us yesterday they have a lot of respect for Brian Russell's offensive game, and when he is scoring and being a three-point threat, that makes the Utah Jazz much, much tougher. But so far they have been able to keep him pretty quiet. That's been Scottie Pippen's job primarily, to try to keep Russell under control.
Wallace, Malone put a hand in his face. Sabonis the rebound. Wallace inside. Rasheed Wallace with authority. The lead back up to 11. Russell mishandles it. And the Jazz turn it over. Stoudemire pushing it up. Under 3.5 remaining in the third. Pippen against Hornacek. Malone gets it in the hands of Stockton. Nice trail play from Malone. Couldn't finish, but he was fouled. And that's your traditional trailer on the fast break. Malone will shoot 2.
Well, only 2 offensive rebounds for Portland in that first half. They've got about 3 or 4 already here in the third quarter, as Sabonis, a very crafty passer, likes to do those little no-look shots in there. And usually when you get an offensive rebound, that's when the defense is broken down. You can either get a wide-open 3 or a high percentage shot like the Wallace dunk.
Down the other end, though, Sabonis with his third personal. Malone to the line where he's 3 for 3 so far this afternoon. Trying to distract him. Tonight on NBC, it's the world premiere miniseries event, Jason and the Argonauts. The classic story becomes an epic adventure. Terrific cast with Dennis Hopper, Frank Langella, Jolene Blaylock, and Jason London. Jason and the Argonauts tonight on NBC.
It's been pretty much all Portland from the free throw line in this one. 22 for 28, as they have been the most aggressive team taking the ball to basket. Now Utah 9 for 12 from the line, trying to catch up.
Malone with 11 total points, coming up on 3 minutes remaining in the third. Smith, Russell stays with him. Pippen gets inside, blocked from behind by Lewis. Here comes Stockton, momentarily mishandles it, draws the foul. And Quincy Lewis off the bench has made some terrific defensive plays. Stockton, meanwhile, will go to the free throw line and shoot a couple. Just under 3 minutes remaining in the third. Jazz down by 9. You're watching the NBA playoffs on NBC. Here in the league, John Stockton was a first-round pick back in '84. His roommate in training camp as a rookie was Kenny Natt. Now, Kenny Natt played 3 years in the league and is now an assistant coach for Jerry Sloan. And Kenny says he remembers 2 things specifically about his roommate from the rookie year. Number 1, he said that Stockton was the loudest snoring guy he's ever been around in his life. And number 2, he said Stockton was scared. He didn't know what his future would bring. He didn't know if he was going to make the team. And Stockton told Kenny Natt he wanted to stay in the league long enough to buy a house. But Kenny says right from the get-go, he knew Stockton was going to be a special player. And they still call each other roomie. Nice relationship between Natt and Stockton. Natt enjoying his coaching experience now. As mentioned, played a little bit. Stockton, of course, still plugging away on the floor, and he brings the Jazz within 7.
I think right now Utah has to be reasonably happy with the position they're in, with the problems they've had turning the ball over, getting beat at the foul line, not shooting the ball particularly well, and yet they are in the hunt.
There has to be a dent on the floor from that collision with Sabonis and the hardwood. The foul is called against Malone. That's his second. So Sabonis to the free throw line. Sabonis 9 points, 9 rebounds. Now all 5 starters in double figures for Portland. You know, Matt, I never had a chance to see Sabonis back in his early days, but they say that his overall skills were just magnificent.
I saw him when he came to the United States with a Russian team. Actually, it was a Lithuanian team back then. And at 17 years of age, obviously he was slimmer, trimmer, ran the floor very well, always an outstanding passer. And had he been able to come into the NBA at age 21 or 22, he would have been right up there amongst the greats. But injuries have taken the toll on Arvydas Sabonis.
Meanwhile, speaking of one of the greats, Malone able to put it in. Malone now with 13 points, 9 of them here in this third quarter. Jazz hanging in there, down 7 as we approach 2 minutes remaining. Wallace deep in the post. Blocked from behind by Lewis. And it's still Portland ball. Quincy Lewis with 3 block shots.
He made a number of good defensive plays on Scottie Pippen in the first half, and he's earning some playing time right now. Jerry Sloan does not want to go with the smaller Howard Isley at the 2-guard spot because he feels he just gets overwhelmed by Portland's big guard.
Stoudemire beats Stockton down low. And Damon Stoudemire having a terrific game. 14 points for Stoudemire to lead all scorers. Blazers by 9. Russell, but Stockton tracking it down. Malone bouncing off players down low. Puts it up. It's good. And a foul. Rasheed Wallace yelling at Ronnie Nunn. He's close to picking up a technical. Stoudemire keeps him away. Nunn does a good job letting Wallace blow off some steam. And now Malone will shoot a free throw.
Well, this is what Karl Malone said he was going to do, talking to us yesterday against the taller Rasheed Wallace. Try to post him up as much as possible. Despite the height advantage for Rasheed Wallace, Karl felt that he's able to muscle inside, still be able to get some shots off. Actually, Karl got away with a little hesitation and a walk there as Rasheed Wallace picks up his 4th foul, and he's mad at everybody right now. And it seems like every one of these games, he's picked up yet another technical, every one of these games between these two teams, some kind of incident always comes about, usually late third quarter, early fourth quarter, which generally has something to do with the outcome of the game.
Wallace picking up the second technical. He had 2 in the first round series and, of course, set an NBA record with 38. And the team trying to get him to turn it around. He promised the team he wouldn't get involved in it in the postseason and the playoffs. Did pick up, as I mentioned, 2 in the series against Minnesota, but in a game where Utah's coming back and so many of these playoff games decided in the final seconds, 1 or 2 points can make a difference between you being eliminated and advancing. And it's just selfish move from Rasheed Wallace. And the ironic thing, Matt, is he's such an unselfish player in every other way.
He has it in his mind that by being that way with referees and confrontational, it gives him the edge he wants to play his best basketball. Actually, in the last 2 games of the Minnesota series, he was very much under control, almost passive. I hate to say it. It took a little thing away from him. Now, I'm not saying he should go out there and berate officials on every call, but there's a happy medium in there somewhere for Rasheed Wallace. He is so valuable to this Portland team. He's got to keep himself out of trouble.
He's now sitting down with the 4 fouls. I mean, he was taken out of the game, and he got the tee as he was heading to the bench. Meanwhile, Quincy Lewis picks up his 4th personal. Scott Padgett will come in for Lewis. Terrific job from the rookie Lewis, especially on the defensive end. Smith, meanwhile, has now hit 16 for 16 from the free throw line in the postseason.
Now that'll move Brian Russell to the big guard spot, which he has had to play against his team throughout the regular season series. And Scott Padgett, a good perimeter standstill shooter on the outside, might be able to spread the floor a little bit for Karl Malone.
Coming up on a minute remaining in the third. Polynice, little jump hook, and Olden Polynice gets the roll.
Well, he spread it for Olden Polynice. Padgett just standing over in the right corner. You got to honor his shooting ability, and that is Olden Polynice's favorite little move, a little quick dribble into the lane, a quick jump hook.
6 points, 7 boards for Polynice. Coming off again his best game in the game 5 versus the Sonics. Shrimp forces it up, won't go, battle underneath. Padgett falls to the floor and gets it to Russell. And again, the Jazz coming back. Stockton, and he's fouled on the 3-point attempt. Stoudemire hit him, and John Stockton will take 3 free throws as Stoudemire picks up his 4th.
John Stockton moving to the middle of the floor, drawing the defense there as the defense caught in rotation, and Polynice just stepping up into the lane where the open area is. Jerry Sloan was up on the sideline, letting John Stockton know what the shot clock situation was. End of the quarter, looking to get a 2-for-1 situation. That's why the quick 3-point attempt there by John Stockton, and got the bonus on it by getting fouled on the play.
Armin Gilliam checks in. Gilliam with effective minutes in the second quarter. You saw Greg Anthony as Stoudemire will sit down with the 4 fouls. Stockton a rare miss from the line. Again, he hit the 2 clinching free throws against Seattle in the closing seconds of Game 5 on Friday night at the Delta Center.
John Stockton throughout his long and storied career, not only an excellent free throw shooter, but being able to shoot over 50%. Here he misses 2 out of 3. But for John to be able to shoot over 50% was not a good shooter when he first came into the league. Improved that part of his game. He gets his fair share of layups, but a lot of those are outside jump shots. It's an amazing stat for John Stockton.
Lead is cut to 4. Smith, Greg Anthony. Anthony on the floater. Rolls short, the air ball. Shrimp keeps it alive, stolen by Stockton. Shot clock turned off. They've got the numbers. 4-on-1. Gilliam foul by Smith. And normally he'll hold it for the final shot, but not in that case with the big numbers for Utah.
No, too many numbers. John Stockton, you could tell, was aware of the whole situation. It was a matter of just when he was going to deliver the ball to Armin Gilliam. Wanted to make sure that he didn't give it to a big man too soon out on the floor where he would have to put the ball on the floor, possibly make a decision. Wanted to get it to him on stride with an opportunity to get the lay-in. Steve Smith stopped all of that with a hard foul.
Gilliam off the mark. And the Jazz have now missed 3 of their last 4 from the line. 6 total for the game as Malone will come in for one last defensive stand. Stockton will get a breather.
Well, the Jazz just do not have a wide margin of error. They've got to be very sharp. They've got to take advantage of the foul shot situations. They got to take care of the ball. They got to defensive rebound it. They got to put themselves in position with about 6 minutes to go in the game and let their experience and their execution take over coming down the stretch.
Gilliam, a 78% career free throw shooter. He misses 2, but Portland turns it over with 4.6 remaining. The Jazz finishing up missing 4 straight free throws. Isley, final seconds, 3rd quarter. Isley puts it up just off the mark. And that will end the 3rd. But the Utah Jazz with a hobbling Karl Malone storm back. Malone coming up big in his 3rd quarter, 12 of his 16 points. Scottie Pippen, meanwhile, 11 total for the Portland Trailblazers. 3 quarters complete in Game 1 of the Western Conference semifinals. And the Jazz at one point down by 13, only trailing by 4. We'll return after these messages and a word from your local station.
Bonding.
Malone realizes that his team has a chance to steal one here in Game 1, so he's going to be very careful in not resting John Stockton too long. He's out for a breather right now, but John Stockton's only played 18 minutes in this game, mainly because the bench played so well in the 2nd quarter, and Karl Malone missed quite a bit of time, a lot for the same reason. He's only played 22 minutes. Plenty of timeouts and stoppages here in the 4th quarter.
Padgett ties up Trent, and they call a jump ball. And the bench continues to play terrific defense. It's Isley, Padgett, Gilliam, along with Malone and Russell right now.
And Armin Gilliam could be very careful, be very valuable here in the early part of this 4th quarter while he's in the game defending Sabonis. Now, that will not be very easy. He'll have problems there. If Arvydas takes him inside, they'll have to come double team him. But Armin Gilliam's the kind of guy who can step out at that 15 to 17-foot mark and do some damage against Arvydas Sabonis.
Pittman fires away. Pittman off the mark. Rebound, Brian Grant. Lost it. Sabonis picks it up. And a nice save from Arvydas Sabonis. Well, he's got terrific hands. Grant in traffic. Anthony for 3. Gilliam knocked out of his hands by his teammate Russell. But the Jazz hold on. Opening minute here in the 4th. Jazz playing against a team that knocked them out of the playoffs last year in the 2nd round in 6 games. And it was right here at the Rose Garden. Malone falling away. Karl Malone short. Pippen could not control it. And a new 24.
As much as Karl Malone wants to go inside at a taller Rasheed Wallace, he wants to go outside against the wider, brawnier
Gilliam well short. Anthony the rebound.
Brian Grant, who's going to be very physical inside, so Karl Malone feels much more comfortable taking him away from the basket, shoot the jumper, or drive on him.
Grant got it very deep in the post, and Malone hacked him. Brian Grant to shoot as Karl Malone has picked up his 3rd personal.
Well, this is what Brian Grant does a lot. What Karl Malone does, run the floor extremely hard, make his opponent have to work against him, stop dead in your tracks right in front of the rim, get position like that. Karl Malone, knowing that maneuver so well himself, knew he was clearly beaten on the play. tried to script, which he normally does when a big player puts the ball down around waist level, but made sure he hacked hard.
Grant hits both free throws, and the lead back to 6. Last year in that series, it was the Jazz that had the home court advantage. And even though Utah, the second seed, Portland had the better regular season record, so they get home court in this series. Magic stolen by Anthony, and Isley with a foul, and they're going to call it a clear path foul. So 2 free throws coming up for Greg Anthony. And of course, game 1 so huge. Nearly 80% of the teams that take game 1 in a 7-game series go on and take the series, and home court obviously is important.
Well, generally that team with home court advantage is the better team. That's why they've had the better record. You talked about the Utah Jazz last year succumbing to Portland in the second round. They went through a very similar first-round series as they did this year, as they barely squeaked by the Sacramento Kings. Actually, certainly could have lost that in 4 or 5. But again, that sigh of relief moving on to the second round, pretty much the way Utah escaped Seattle.
Now, Anthony's shooting the free throws, even though the Jazz not in the penalty and wasn't the act of shooting, again, because it's called a clear pass foul when a defender fouls you above the tip of the circle down the other end, and there's no defensive man in front. It's obviously you're just stopping an easy, fast break. And that's why Anthony got the 2 shots, and then he gets called for a blocking foul, and that looked like Isley may have barreled into him. Anthony arguing with Callahan, but it was a little pat on the behind.
Yeah, he wanted to argue, but he also wanted to say, don't worry about it, you missed it. And now Greg Anthony, he's going to be very physical. That's his job, fourth quarter defense, to try to disrupt as much as possible, and he's trying to make it happen.
Anthony always a very physical defender. Shot clock down to 4. Isley fires away, and an air ball. Gilliam knocks it away. Malone puts it in. Armin Gilliam with a terrific play. And the Jazz once again within 6.
Arvydas Sabonis saying he was grabbed and hacked on the play. Nevertheless, when he's got a rebound like that, he has to cover up.
Still plenty of time. Only 2 minutes gone by here in the 4th. Sabonis, the sweeping hook, does not get the roll. Padgett boxing out on Shrimp. Ryan Russell has been very quiet as Malone gets it down low. Padgett fires. No good, but a whistle and a foul down low as Anthony and Isley battling. We'll see what the call is going to be. Ronnie Nunn talking with both Anthony and Isley. I think it might be a double foul. And they'll have a jump ball at center court.
I think you're right. That's the accurate call as Howard Isley cut through on the lane there, just trying to get out of the way. Anthony trying to send a message to him, being very physical. And when Isley went back at him, more tough box out play. Greg Anthony trying to put his stamp on this 4th quarter.
Anthony talking to Jerry Sloan as now he goes back to his bench. Just under 9.5 remaining in the 4th. Jazz down by 6. Lakers and the Suns coming up after this one from the Staples Center. Game 1 between Jason Kidd and the Suns and Shaquille O'Neal and the Lakers. Scan on the double foul. You jump it up at center court. Isley picking up his 4th personal, and Anthony is 3rd. You don't shoot the free throws regardless of the penalty situation on a double foul. Quincy Lewis getting some big moments. Hornacek back in the game. Malone calling for it against Grant. Turns, shoots, won't go. Sabonis the rebound, and a loose ball foul after the board. Ostertag his 3rd. And that is the 3rd team foul against the Jazz.
Jeff Hornacek back on the floor for Jerry Sloan. They need his outside presence out there. Plus, he's a guy, despite his leg problems, can put the ball on the floor, get in the lane, and shoot those little runners. But being able to knock down those 3-pointers certainly helps Karl Malone inside. But Jerry's also got to be thinking about getting John Stockton back on the floor. Even though Isley's got the benefit of the doubt on a couple of calls against Greg Anthony, certainly John Stockton will get it as well, if not more.
Wallace left-hander won't go. Grant the follow won't go. Grant again in traffic, and a foul called as Ryan Grant using his strength down low, and he gets a standing ovation here at the Rose Garden.
Well, that's just the crowd here appreciating what Brian Grant does for this team, and all it is hard work. as he goes after every ball around the basket like it's his last meal. And when that body starts flailing around, other bodies will fly.
5 fouls on Quincy Lewis. Pippen again posting up Jeff Hornacek. Scottie Pippen now with 13, and the lead is 8. Anthony trying to put as much pressure as possible on Isley. This crowd really getting into it. Malone calling for it. Karl Malone inside, does not get the roll. Rebound fought for. Picked up by Malone. The follow, he's fouled. Shot was blocked, and Wallace is going nuts on the ground as Malone will shoot 2 free throws. He's already picked up a technical, so a second one would mean automatic ejection. He's got 5 personals. And he's lucky that he didn't pick up a technical there with the reaction. Very demonstrative.
Well, it appeared that Greg Ostertag had a very easy tip-him opportunity. Actually, he pushed, ran away, which kind of took him off balance. But any loose ball in the lane, Karl Malone, with those strong hands, able to pick it up. As Rasheed Wallace, once again, with the overreaction.
Malone from the line, 6 for 6. Karl Malone sprained his knee in the second quarter while he was sitting on the Jazz bench. Armin Gilliam, who was on the floor at the time, was chasing a loose ball and banged into Malone, and Malone really hobbled off, was limping severely going into the locker room. Actually left with about 2 minutes to go in the quarter, and is played here in the second half, hobbling around a little bit as Stockton comes back in, and Wallace will sit down with some more words as he exits.
A few parting shots for Rasheed Wallace. The official out there wisely turned his head initially to not give Wallace the chance to say anything. But he will not be denied.
Malone has become, as we mentioned earlier, such a good free throw shooter. Great concentration, and knocks down both.
20 points, 8 rebounds for Karl Malone on a bad leg. Couldn't get anything going in the first half. But if he's going to be out on the floor for minutes, he's going to produce.
6-point game. Sabonis all the time in the world. Misfires. Pippen the offensive rebound. Scottie Pippen has raised the level of his game in the postseason.
And Jerry Sloan coming back with Jeff Hornacek. Has backfired now on 2 straight occasions as Scottie Pippen able to overwhelm him inside.
Good defense from Pippen. Holiday's finding Malone. Karl Malone off the mark. Sabonis the rebound. Stockton knocked it out of his hands, but Pippen right there. The Jazz have made several runs. They've trailed by as many as 13. They keep clawing back in, but Portland so far has held them off.
Looking for Pippen again with the mismatch inside against Hornacek.
And illegal defense, technical foul. Jerry Sloan disagrees with it as he comes out near half court. That's the 3rd illegal defense technical foul against the Utah Jazz.
The Jazz defense leaning over, knowing they're going to have to give help to Hornacek very, very quickly before Pippen can catch and get into his shot.
Emotions running high here in game 1. As this has become a nice little rivalry. Playoff history will do that to you. And they had that last year as Anthony can't convert. Quincy Lewis is going to come back in. And as much as Hornacek has helped on the offensive end, Lewis's defense has been very big, and Hornacek with the bad knee and the mismatch against Pippen has created some problems for Utah.
A little surprise, Greg Anthony took that free throw, 77%, which is good, but you got an 84%er, and Arvydas Sabonis out on the floor.
Pippen way off the mark. Stockton the rebound. Eyes darting all over the place as he brings it up the floor. Still plenty of time remaining. 7 minutes. Malone is double teamed. Good ball movement. Lewis, the nice fake. Lewis pulls up. Won't go down. Sabonis another rebound. And a foul call. Karl Malone looks back at Ronnie Nunn. That's Sabonis' 14th rebound. They call the foul on Paladis, his first.
Utah made a decision to start the game, putting Jeff Hornacek on Scottie Pippen. They exploited it in the first half, and now have done it here as Jeff Hornacek just giving up way too much size to Scottie Pippen on the inside.
So with just over 5 minutes gone by in the fourth quarter of game one, Portland with an 8-point advantage.
NBA playoffs. Questionable whether or not he would come back the second half. He has come back with a vengeance. Now has 20 points, 8 rebounds, trying to keep his Utah Jazz within striking distance.
You can see the knee is bothering him by the way he's going about certain plays, but he's just fighting through it, still playing as physical as ever. Karl Malone just on the floor and enjoying himself right now as Sabonis hits the free throw. Arvydas Sabonis now 12 points in the 14 boards. What a touch for a man that enormous. Back to a 10-point game. Brian Russell back out on the floor. Jazz need Russell. Russell has not taken a shot since the first quarter. Hasn't scored since the opening minutes. There's a three. Won't go. And Trent for the rebound. Russell now 1 of 5.
And a big part of that has been the defense of Scottie Pippen, who prides himself on being a helper. That's too easy. Way too easy as Karl Malone gave way for the easy drop-in by Brian Grant. But Scottie Pippen coming into this game, knowing how important Brian Russell is to the attack of the Utah Jazz, made sure he was going to shut him down first and then be a helper after that.
Stockton knocks down the shot. John Stockton now with 8 points. Check that, 10 points, 5 assists. And a lead back to 10 as we approach the midway point of the fourth. Trent looking to post up the rookie Lewis. Lewis really showing some things for Jerry Sloan. Trent across, kicks it out. Pippen, a nice fake to get Russell away from him. Can't complete it though. Grant tips it, tries to save it, does so to Pippen. Terrific hustle from Brian Grant.
That's redundant. And they hustled all the time.
And Pippen answers with a three. And the crowd applauding, but you get the feeling it's more toward Grant than Pippen's shot. Stockton comes back. Won't go. Kicked up and in by Polonese.
But when you make hustle and effort plays, second shot opportunities, it leads to good things for your team. How often do we see it? After an offensive rebound, you get a good look at a three. Scottie Pippen, not the best three-point shooter in the world, but all of a sudden, in rhythm, becomes better.
Polonese trying to fight through a screen there.
Initially, Grant was battling a couple of little guards, or at least John Stockton was in there, the only little guard for that rebound, but chasing down the loose ball to save it. And the defense all out of sorts there after that second shot opportunity. And Scottie Pippen, once again, an outstanding job at the defensive end, chipping in with 18 points at the offensive end.
Polonese's second foul. Greg Anthony has just attempted the 40th free throw for the Portland Trailblazers. And they struggled early from the line, but have really come on. They've hit 82%. Wallace will return. And Sabonis sits down. 13 points, 14 rebounds for Arvydas Sabonis. The lead is 12 with 5:09 remaining. You wonder how many more runs the Jazz have left in them. Again, they played on Friday night. Portland has been off since Tuesday. But a number of the key Jazz players didn't get a lot of minutes in the first half, so fatigue really shouldn't be a problem. Chance of defense from the Rose Garden crowd. Stockton right back to Malone. Now they double him. Russell gets inside, stripped by Shrimp. Ahead to Anthony. Anthony adjusts and able to put it in. And the largest lead of the game for the Trailblazers. Lewis back to Stockton. Malone with the jumper. Karl Malone now with 22. Well, the Jazz at a 13-point hole.
Portland has been forcing the issue all game long. Every time they get a defensive rebound, a steal, whatever, they've been trying to shove it down Utah's throat, thinking they may be a little bit fatigued mentally and physically coming so quickly into this series. But it's really the way Portland wants to play against anybody, anytime.
3 on the shot clock. Shrimp not going to get it off in time. They say he did. That was very close. Polonese tips it, but right back to Anthony and 24 for the Blazers. Pippen to Grant. Anthony for three. It's good. Greg Anthony from downtown. And Portland now with a 16-point fold.
And it was Brian Grant once again battling with Olden Colonies, getting just enough of a hand on the ball to keep it alive for his team one more time, and deservedly getting the standing ovation here at the Rose Garden.
Anthony called for a foul down the other end.
This ball knocked out by Brian Grant. Mike, I think you're right. The crowd is almost cheering more on the effort of Brian Grant as much as the three-point capitalization by Portland.
He, of course, was their MVP in the playoffs last year. One of the hardest working players in the league. That's what he says he wants to be remembered by. The guy that came out and worked his hardest every night. 6 on the shot clock. Colonies inside. Way off the mark. Lewis on the follow. Even if the Jazz do not come back, and it's going to be a tremendous comeback if they ever do, one real positive they can take from this game one has been the play of rookie Quincy Lewis.
Well, and again, it's by necessity in that second quarter for Jerry Sloan. He had John Stockton in a little bit of foul trouble, starting to get good play from Jacques Vaughn and Howard Isley and Karl Malone getting a long rest out there. So I think Jerry Sloan wanted to see what he had in the tank, so to speak, as how these players were going to react in a playoff setting.
A 20-second timeout call by Mike Dunleavy. Shrimp actually called it, so we'll take a quick break. Exactly 3 minutes remaining. The Trailblazers now in control.
Meet the inspiration.
Karl Malone done for the afternoon. A sprained knee getting him to the locker room early. 22 points, 8 rebounds. Playing through the knee, which, again, you could see was really bothering him. Putting up a terrific effort, but the Jazz will fall short as they're down by 16. Portland with a big fourth quarter. Wallace against Ostertag. Rasheed Wallace forces it up, puts it in. Tough shot. Portland's lead was only 4 when the fourth quarter began. It's now an 18-point advantage, largest of the game. With the Blazers, they just send wave after wave of players after you, and defensively, Matt, that's where they're so impressive.
And all those waves played particularly well today. A couple of more extra mentions. Scottie Pippen and Brian Grant were really turning it up here. I think Scottie Pippen came into this game thinking he was going to be more of a ball distributor. Oh my gosh. Circus shot inside by Jacques Vaughn. I think Scottie Pippen thought he'd be matched up with Brian Russell at both ends of the floor, but by having Hornacek on him, that changed his thinking. All of a sudden now he became the guy that were going to run the offense through and become the first option, and he responded.
Shrimp, shot clock winding down. Brian Grant off the mark. Shrimp keeps it alive. Grant able to save it. They get a new 24. Pippen actually recently admitted, he said, I pretty much coasted the part of the regular season in terms of stepping forward and really taking control, but that has changed in the playoffs. Grant well short. Wallace the rebound, another 24. Actually, no, it didn't hit the rim. Shrimp keeps it alive, but Ostertag comes away. I don't know if coaches and fans want to hear I pretty much coasted. No. But his coasted is not like he's just coasting, but what he meant to say really was that he's just not taking command of the team. He's letting other guys develop. He's trying to feel his way with his new teammates.
And this is really where this Portland team needs his leadership and his deep playoff experience, going to the championship and winning 6 times.
Portland Trailblazers get another standing ovation. They are the second best regular season record behind the Lakers, and they're showing why here in the fourth quarter. But it certainly is a long series, and it's only game 1. And if any team has had to come back and battle, it's Anthony. Punctuates this victory with another 3. Anthony all 12 points in the fourth quarter as the seconds tip down. Portland, an enormous fourth quarter, outscoring the Jazz 29-14. So game 1 goes to the home team. Final score 94-75. Back with final thoughts from the Rose Garden after this timeout. final score of Game 1, Portland 94 and Utah 75. A great defensive performance from the Portland Trailblazers, and Scottie Pippen showing why he excels in the postseason. Coming up next, Game 3 of our playoff tripleheader. There's the Suns take on the Lakers in Los Angeles. For Matt Kukas, Lisa Molosky, and our entire crew, this is Mike Breen saying so long from Portland. You're watching the NBA on NBC.
Left knee, and that's an important knee. Malone would go to the locker room, suffered a sprain. He's a hockey player. He's tough. He would return. Third quarter action. Malone on the blocks, misses, but gets his own rebound and cashes in. He had 22. The Jazz cut it to 6. Late in the third, Blazers up 9. Arvydas Sabonis not looking to Rasheed Wallace. Sabonis, the best passing big man in the game. Wallace had 12. Fourth quarter, Portland up by 5. Scottie Pippen, the jump hook over Jeff Hornacek. Sec and Pip was taken over. Brian Grant keeping it alive, hustling, fighting. Pippen, 9 points in the last 9 minutes. He's going to get it back and drain the triple. He finished with 20. The Blazers win Game 1 rather easily, 94-75. The Jazz has now lost 12 straight playoff games in Portland. The Blazers, probably the deepest team in the league, put 6 players in double figures. Utah, a tired team after playing the Sonics Friday night. The Blazers were fresher. Brian Grant's hustle proved positive.
He was big with the energy that he brought to us, and that's the important thing, and that's something that, you know, he's given our team this whole season is some toughness and some energy coming off the bench.
Well, we felt sorry for ourselves. You know, you can tell me all you want that our guys didn't come to play. I'll tell you right now, we didn't come to play, and this series will be over real quick, if they're going to accept that.
My teammates did a good job of, you know, opening lanes for me, and I mean, my scoring is a credit to what they bring to the table, because half of the time it was because they didn't want to leave anybody open when I was getting to the hole.
The first 3 quarters of Game 1 this year, much like the first 3 quarters of Game 1 last year between these two, the fourth quarter, the difference. Last year, the Blazers shot just 2 of 16 in the fourth and scored 5 points. Today, they racked up 29 in the fourth. No coincidence, last year's game was played in Salt Lake City.